In this video, we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes we see house flippers make. Now, listen, house flipping is very much a science and an art. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through some of the things that we see when people keep making mistakes and end up losing thousands and thousands of dollars on their flips. So let's get right into it. Now, the first one, you would think, well, Spencer, that's common sense. Well, I have a saying that common sense is not always common practice. And so we tend to get, as humans, we tend to get this thought in our head that, hey, I can overcome the odds. Like things are going to be in my favor and I can make this thing work out. And so what happens is we tend to be overly optimistic. And what we can't do is we can't neglect the very basics. So some of this is going to be very basic, then some of this is going to be more advanced. So the first one here is just not researching the market. Now, again, it seems pretty obvious, but please let me tell you, if you are, especially if you're trying to do this out of the town that you live in, out of the area that you live in, you may not understand all the nuances that get into this. And so you need to understand local market trends. What is happening in the market? I met a teacher a few years back, and she had come across some money and it's essentially just kind of started doing some market research and decided that she said, you know what, I didn't know a whole bunch, but I knew this area of Tennessee was really starting to come along. This was, again, she was buying this like 20, 25 years ago, and it was in Nashville, and it was south of Nashville in a city called Franklin. And so she used that money to buy 3 or 4 rental properties. And let me tell you something, over the course of the next 20 years in Franklin, real estate has gone through the roof. And so understanding local market trends, this is very, very important. Don't think that you're going to jump ahead of a curve too much. So if you see something happening in a market and you're flipping houses, it's a lot different than buy and hold. Buy and hold, you have time. Flipping, you don't really have time because you're trying to get rid of that property right away. You need to understand comparables. Now, comparables are a big deal because what you want to do is you want to find houses that are around the same square footage. You want to find them same floor plan, same year built, same bedroom mix, unless you're planning on adding bedrooms and bathrooms. So those are the things you need to consider. You can't look at a brand new comp and think that an old house that you're going to rehab is going to be the same as a brand new build. It's just not going to work. So you need to understand this, look at the comparables, and then identifying, really, it's not the target resident right there. It's really the target buyer. You need to understand who's buying these properties. When you're flipping houses, who is your target market? What do they like? What do they expect? What are non-negotiables? And then what are some things that would knock their socks off, that might tilt them over the edge? Again, I would say when you're researching the market, one of the things you want to do is you want to be conservative in your estimates, okay? Be conservative. What's next? Underestimating renovation costs. Wow, this is a big one. You should at least always think about a contingency, 10 to 15%, because something's going to come up all the time. And if you watch, if you've watched any of the renovation shows on TLC or whatever channels they are that are pretty real. Of course, they make it look very glamorous. It's not always glamorous. However, the ones that do it right always have some type of contingency because they find something wrong all the time, something they didn't expect. Also, don't go in there thinking you're going to use cheap materials. You may save money, especially if you don't have a contingency, and then all of a sudden you come across something that may make you have shortcuts on other things or choose less material. This goes back to understanding the market. You have to understand the market. What is the market going to require? Is it going to be marble countertops? Is it going to be quartz countertops? Is it going to be whatever the case is? You need to understand that and factor that into your budgeting. You do not want to put poor quality in there. For somebody who's going to hold long term, it's going to be high repair, but ultimately poor quality is going to mean your house sits longer. It's going to sit on the market longer because people are going to be like, I really don't like those countertops. They should be this. And so you're going to have to deduct that from your price. All right. Over leveraging financing. So let me tell you something it's really a great story. There's a local person here in town that flips 100 houses a year. Now, you may think that's impossible. It's not impossible. 100 houses a year. And I'm going to tell you later, I'm going to tell you how he gets those houses towards the end. I'm going to tell you how he finds 100 houses to flip every single year, profitable flips. I mean, he wouldn't still be doing it. But this is one of the biggest things. I interviewed this guy a few years ago, and we were talking about this. We were talking about, how to make sure you budget correctly and that you do all these things. But I was really digging into his backstory and how he had become so successful. And one of the things that he had done is he was not over leveraged. He was being smart with his money. So when 2008 came, so he was doing this back when the Great Recession came, or when this huge market of upheaval came in 2008, when it wiped out most people. He was not over leveraged, and he was able just to do things. He was just doing them one at a time at that point, and he was doing it very, very wisely. He didn't have tons of money out at the bank, and so they saw how he had used the money wisely, and they were still willing to let him borrow money to flip houses. And that was the only way he really survived. I think he also had a couple of rental houses, but my advice, don't take too much debt on when you're doing this. Do not do that, because there's all kinds of holding costs that you're going to incur that are going to eat into your profit. Right here, higher interest loans, obviously, depending on what interest rate you get. If you're doing hard money, it's going to be a lot higher interest rate, and so that's going to eat into your profits. Also, you need to take into consideration taxes, insurance, utilities. I mean, all these things add up just when the house is sitting there. And then I would say, what is your exit strategy? And this might not have much to do with financing, but what is your exit strategy? Most people, when they're flipping, are thinking about flipping, but then maybe you could exit by renting. I have a friend who every time he buys a property, he's always thinking about 3 exits. He's going to wholesale it out. He's going to flip it out. Is he going to owner finance it, or is he going to sell it on the retail market? That's 4. So he always has multiple exit strategies. But the point is, as long as you're not over leveraged, you can do that, and you can be a lot more nimble. Overpricing the property. This is a big one, because a lot of times house flippers are, when they're just getting started, they're relying on their agent to tell them the truth about the property, like how much should this retail for? And agents are going to typically be more optimistic, I think, and you just need to be very, very careful about that. You need to be very careful about not overpricing. I know that there's areas of town here where parts of the city or parts of the zip code are doing extremely well and other parts are not, but people price the lower, less desirable areas. They price them the same as the higher desirable areas, even though they're in the same zip code and they could be 10 blocks away, not far. It doesn't matter. You have to be realistic about the price, because this is the only way. This really, house flipping is about speed. How quickly can you do it and do quality work, give somebody a great house or home, and exit in the shortest amount of time possible. Again, you don't want to hold these things. If you overprice it, you're going to end up sitting on it. And you don't want to rely on personal taste. What you want to do is you want to see what's popular in the market. That's all I care about. I don't care what my taste is. I care about what other people are doing. So this guy in town who flips 100 houses a year, almost every one of the houses that I've seen lately over the past 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, they've been white houses, because white houses are all the rage right now. And so it's just like white brick, painted brick, and they look beautiful. And inside, super white box. Again, he is doing things. He's not relying on personal taste. He's like, this is what the market wants. I'm going to give the market what it wants. His personal house may be completely different. Doesn't matter. He's giving the market what it wants. Skipping due diligence, right? If you're buying houses without inspections, you're in for it. Now, you can become so confident, you can become so skilled in this that you don't need to do it, and that would be great. Then I would say You can go and just look at a property. I used to do this all the time. I would just go and walk a property and then decide, hey, it's good or it's not good. And I would just make a call on it. I would know $15,000 to $25,000 worth of work. I can see that pretty well. Now, if it was a big foundation issue, I would get somebody to look at it. But really, for the most part, I was eyeballing it. You want to make sure you have all your permits done. You want to look at the neighborhood. You want to make sure that the neighborhood, the schools are good. It's not like on a crazy busy street, anything like that. You want to just make sure that the property would be a normal property. It would blend in with everything else. And then market analysis, right? Again, just going back to comps, making sure your comps are the right comps. And then really, this is the one that we see get a lot of people, is poor time management. I'm telling you, time management is so key. I have a friend who is kind of known for this, that even though he does great, fantastic work, he tends to take a lot longer than he should take. And therefore, it sits on the market longer, holding costs are longer. The crazy thing is, you can actually, and this is one of the things that he did, he missed a super hot market by taking longer to rehab the property and get it on the market. And so he didn't have great time management. And so his house, when it came on the market had slowed way down. And so he was going, yikes, I've got so what happened is it was an expensive house, $800,000 house. And so that sat on the market longer than it should have. He eventually sold it, but poor time management. And I'll tell you, the biggest factor in this is contractor coordination. If you're not on these contractors, making sure they're going to be places when they say they're going to be places, I can tell you it can get expensive, because they're going to go on to, they literally are looking for the next job. And so they're always going from one job to the next job, and they want to get paid. So they will drop your stuff. If you're not ready, if you're delayed, they will drop yours and go to something else. They're not going to sit there and have weeks of, monetized time, I guess I would say. They're not making money. And all of it is just contractor coordination. Off season, obviously, reduced buyer demand. Think about that. Think about, you don't want to finish a property over the Thanksgiving week, because really between Thanksgiving and New Year's, a lot of people aren't doing stuff. Some houses are selling, but not a lot is going on. People are thinking about the holidays. All right, so before I just kind of wrap this up, I do want to tell you how this guy finds so many of his properties that I mentioned before, who flips 100 houses. So he finds his properties because he's built so many great relationships with realtors. And the thing about realtors is they tend to not have, they're not very creative. And so a realtor will see a house and they will immediately think this is good for the retail market or it's not good for the retail market. Meaning, if it's way outdated, it has repair issues, they think there's nothing can be done with this house. Definitely can't put it on the retail market. So what they do is they end up telling the seller that. They tell the seller, hey, this is not going to sell on the retail market. So do you want me to reach out to a friend of mine? He flips houses and he'll pay you cash for it. It'll be quick closing. And a lot of times they'll say, yes, let's get an offer. This is how he buys so many houses. He has realtors that just bring him deals that they don't think could ever sell in the retail market. He's happy to buy them. He gives them a fair price. He rehabs the whole house. He sells it for a lot more than it would ever sell for, but he has built great relationships. And the way you build great relationships, you get out and you talk to a lot of people. And then when it comes time to pull the trigger, he pulls the trigger. So realtors know that they can trust him. They know that he will buy the property and he's not going to string them along and then say, oh, I can't buy it. He's literally going to do whatever he says. So keeping your word is a part of this whole process. And so that's it. Those are the biggest mistakes we see: not researching the market, underestimating the cost, over-leveraging, overpricing, skipping due diligence, and poor time management. Don't let those derail a great flip. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back with more investor-friendly videos just like this.